I say tell everyone everything. Why cover anything up, right? Would it help if I said my facial expressions out loud? Welcoming smile.
I find this inspiring.
Something is pressing, something is!
Frank.
Coca Cola, lipstick, Ringo, dance all night, kiss me, just kiss me, Nephrodite.
This is your most likable song ever.
Yeah.
People will love it.
Hello, Contrarians listeners, Contrarians watchers, Contrarians fans. Here we are for the latest Contrarians warm-up. The movie we're going to be discussing is Frank, a very quirky, very musical, I was about to say biopic. It's not a biopic. I mean, it is based on a real-life figure, as Alex taught me during the episode, but not quite a biopic. This comes chosen by patron Josh Ragland, who felt that we needed a little more whimsy in our episodes, I guess. And threw this super fresh movie at us, 92%, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes. It's super fresh, so we're going to tear it down in Contrarians Corner in the main feed, and then we'll tell you how we really feel. But what we're here to do is give you a few Rotten Tomatoes quotes, give you a little bit of trivia, and of course do the Josh Gad Minute, which Josh Gad and Whimsy, that's just
Hand
two peas
in
in a pot.
hand.
Yeah, so this should be a pretty easy Josh Gad Minute. Let's get to the quotes first, though.
One of the quotes on the poster you could have used when describing it, it's a bonkers and brilliant indie comedy.
Yes, that is.
If I had seen that, I would be like, I'm not going to watch this. But
This movie, they go to South by Southwest in the movie, but this movie could have played at South by Southwest.
I think it did.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
I'm curious now, which poster are you looking at? Because when I was flipping through images for the thumbnails of the episode, there was like several different ones. There's one where Fassbender is like jumping up and has his
Yeah, it
hand
looks
up.
like I'm looking at the one on the Wikipedia page, and it's got Frank in big pink letters, and he's like, looking very curious, I guess, and excitable, while the rest of the cast is in the background looking kind of they're looming back there, I guess.
And they're kind of like out of focus, like the t-shirts and Almost Famous.
Yeah, the Stillwater t-shirts.
All right. Well, let's get to the fresh quotes. We're going to start with Christopher Preston from One Room with a View, who says, Frank will break your heart into pieces or your face into a smile. Perhaps both. Alex, we've covered our share of movies that make us sad and happy at the same time. And would you say Frank made you lean one way or the other?
I think, in the episode, I go into my thoughts more about the ending and if the melancholy and the sadness really washed over me. But yeah, there's some fun in here. There's some funny moments. And, Michael Fassbender did not expect to learn, that he's a great comedic actor from like just a body language perspective. He shows a new side of himself in this as far as his ability. I think we all knew he was a good actor coming into it, but yeah, I smiled more than I cried, definitely, for sure.
That's good to hear. Me too, for the record. And Nick Rogers from Midwest Film Journal says, not to be outdone by her brother, Maggie Gyllenhaal has a quirky, tough-to-pin-down film featuring an enigmatic costume character named Frank. This Frank burrows into the artistic conflict between commodifying pain into a persona. Do you know what they're referencing here? As far as like a Jake Gyllenhaal movie with a quirky character named Frank.
No, I'm looking up his filmography right now to see what he was doing at that time, but my bigger thought is just why bother bringing up Jake? He's nowhere near this movie. It's just like, what was the point of this?
Was this at a point where Maggie Gyllenhaal was not that big of a star, so they just felt the need to bring some of Jake's stardom over to her?
Dark Knight had already been out. No, she was I told you, like, when I was watching this, that was the one that kind of flew under the radar. I was like, holy shit, that's Maggie Gyllenhaal. And that's not just like us being the film nerds that we are. Like, yeah, she was definitely a name. So that's curious why they would bring that up. So this is 2014, and so Nightcrawler was 2014.
Yeah, but that's not. No, I didn't realize the quote threw me off the chronology. You're right. This is so much later. They're referencing Donnie Darko, which was way back.
A bad movie.
No, it's not. But that was back at that was the Wolverine origins of Jake Gyllenhaal, in the sense of this is where we all got to know him. And I don't know how much you remember of a movie you dislike very much, but there's the big bunny that he sees in
Mhm.
his visions, and the bunny's name is Frank.
Okay. Well,
So,
Maggie Gyllenhaal's in that movie, right?
yes, playing his sister.
Yeah, brilliant writing.
Her name is Maggie.
Yeah, I mean, damn, dude. Zodiac, Brothers, Love and Other Drugs, Source Code, Prisoners, and then Nightcrawler was kind of around this
Unstoppable.
time. Yeah, I mean, there were some stinkers in there too. Prince of Persia and remember End of Watch? That movie came up in conversation this week with someone, and I was just like, they didn't know it existed. They were asking me about this Jake Gyllenhaal movie where he plays a cop, and they're like, "Is it good?" I'm like, "There's a lot of other Jake Gyllenhaal movies you should see first before you see that."
Was that his Strange Days? Isn't there a lot of POV uh,
Uh,
sequences?
well, the whole thing is like it's meant to look like real in film. I think they use like a lot of body cams and stuff. You remember Tim and Michael Pena? They're cops.
Hmm.
It's meant
I
to
never
look.
saw it. I just remember like being aware of it being
Yeah, it's
playing in
supposed to be like
theater.
an invasive, like almost like a documentary type thing. It's there's a lot
Not
of other
Strange
Jake
Days.
Gyllenhaal. You should see Frank before you take your time to see End of Watch.
Should you see Strange Days before you
Yes,
watch it? Okay. All right. Well,
End of Watch is I think literally an hour shorter, but you do what you do.
okay. Next. Tara Judah from Junkie says Michael Fassbender's face is not at the center of Frank, but his evocative physical performance proves the film's central thesis. Success is about a lot more than a great face. Do you think, and going back to Almost Famous, where like maybe Michael Fassbender's looks would have detracted from the power of the movie?
Looks have become a problem.
Yeah. Do you think this movie would be less effective if Frank took his mask off every now and then so we could like see Fassbender perform some of the scenes before we get to the end, or do you think that it's just
Definitely less effective, because like part of it is like we talk about in the episode, there was really only the first opportunity to see this movie for the first time for like
right?
those initial people, because then the poster that we reference, it says Fassbender's performance is masterclass, but those people, it wasn't South by the way, it was Sundance,
Close
who went
enough.
who went and saw this like not knowing much of it, and unless they're decent at pinpointing voices to
Mhm.
faces, the end is like, holy shit, it's Michael Fassbender. So there's like the power of that to begin with, but then also just the story it tells. If Frank took his head off, like that kills the mystique.
I mean, you would have to write a scene that's specifically designed to fit in the story in a way that makes sense. Because right now, you couldn't just replace one of the scenes that's there, or like, oh, in this one, he's not wearing his face,
Mm-hmm.
his head. It would have to be something else. But yeah, I agree. As much as I love Fassbender and I think he's a fantastic actor, but in this one, he does enough. Like you've said, and like this, like Tara Judah said, like his physicality, everything else he does with his body, I think makes up for the lack of facial
Yeah,
expression throughout the movie.
and it would have taken that great scene away where son of Gleason tries to see him in the shower just to get a glimpse, and he's got that shower head on.
That seems like a shot, like a gag that would get spoiled in the trailer. Like, I haven't seen the trailer for
Yes.
Frank, but it feels like so much like a trailer moment.
Well, How Do You Like Me Now plays in the background.
Yes. John Bifus from Commercial Appeal, Memphis, Tennessee says an oddball rock and roll themed comedy drama in need of the cult it may never attract. May it never attract the cult? I mean, it could be. We were talking about that with Strange Days too. I keep bringing the movie up, but we're like, did the window close for Strange Days to hit it big? And with Frank, I mean, its director went on to make a movie that got Brie Larson an Oscar, so you would think that was enough to get more people to watch Frank. But at the same time, with Strange Days, I mean,
as we
Bigelow won
learned
an
with
Oscar.
Uncut Gems, that wasn't enough to get people to go back and watch Good Time, even though they should have.
And that one has Robert Pattinson.
It
Not
does.
wearing a mask. You can see his face.
In his peroxided bleached hair. It's wonderful.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe after Benny Safdie gets a Best Supporting nomination
That's
for
what I was going
Oppenheimer.
to say.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer will shine a light on I was going to say Good Boys, on Good Times.
Good Boys is a movie, but yeah, not what we're talking about here. But as far as this goes, this movie's 10 years old now, and yeah, everything's so fast now that it seems as though if it was going to become like, I don't know, what are your typical cult movies, like modern? My mind always goes to Rocky Horror Picture Show, but that
Yeah,
movie's,
that's. I
40
mean,
years
now it's
old.
The Room, but that's a different kind of celebrity type of movie. You're talking about like
Yeah.
a movie that's celebrated for being good. So, what do people still watch? That's that has become a thing. It's like, oh, you need to watch this. Like, I think Donnie Darko did make that jump. Just to go back to something we were just talking about. Donnie Darko. I don't think that it was a big hit when it came out, but eventually it spread to where everybody knows. Most people know what you're talking about when you say Donnie Darko. If you say
So, like,
Frank, they're like, what?
yeah, keeping it in the Richard Kelly family, and also, something that we've covered before. I've seen way more people passionately promote and defend Southland Tales than I have Frank. Like, Southland Tales, I think, is a definite cult movie for the modern audiences.
Yes.
Frank is a better movie than Southland Tales. Please understand that. But I think the window is closed, but that's not to say that future generations can't discover it. And, you find that with movies like Halloween 3 is a great example of a movie that, like, now is heralded. I've seen in my lifetime, even though that movie came out before I was born, I've seen that movie go from kind of scoffed at and maligned, get in the corner, to being like, this is this unheralded masterpiece. So it can definitely still happen with this.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, which movie? Frank is a better movie than Southland Tales, but which one has the best musical number?
Oh, I mean, we know the answer to that. Southland Tales, but
I think Fassbender's, what does he call it? Most likable song. That's what he calls it in the movie. I think that
yeah,
one comes close. If it went on for a little longer, maybe. Okay, we're going to close the quotes with Carrie Darling from Fort Worth Star Telegram, DFW.com. They say, both Llewyn Davis and Frank may embody the spirit of the difficult musician, but Frank is a more empathetic and engaging character, making Frank the movie a more bleakly funny yet ultimately touching film.
Llewyn's an asshole. Like, that's the fucking point.
Had to bring this one up because we both appreciate Inside Llewyn Davis.
10 years ago, Julio and myself went to the Regal Arboretum Theater and saw Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yes. We haven't stopped talking about it since.
Nope. You're not going to find a podcasting duo out there that shoehorns more conversation about Inside Llewyn Davis. They were pretty close together at this point, and this was award season when this came out, when this premiered, excuse me. So I can see the need to compare them, but also they're two radically different movies from a protagonist perspective.
I don't think that the Coens were even aiming at trying to make you feel the way that you're supposed to feel, or that what Abrahamson was trying to do with the ending of Frank is not what the Coens were trying to do with the ending of Llewyn Davis.
And I don't think either that there's supposed to be any sympathy. In 2023, sympathy is almost like a
foreign concept.
Not a foreign concept. It's like, what's the phrase I'm looking for here? Belittling or condescending. That's the word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
People use that word kind of condescendingly. So I'm not trying to be like, oh, they're going for sympathy. But obviously they want you to feel something for Frank. Whereas Llewyn, it's like, yeah, he's talented, but he kind of gets what he deserves in the end. So
I think Frank would be amused, maybe even excited to be compared, Frank the character, to be compared with Llewyn Davis, whereas like Llewyn would be aghast.
That's an amazing analogy there. That's tremendous.
Yeah. Watch Inside Llewyn Davis if you haven't,
yes.
You can understand that statement, but also watch Frank. Alex, we're done with quotes before we move on to trivia. Let's do the Josh Gad Minute. Are we going to put a big styrofoam head on Josh Gad?
Be too easy. I was thinking about it. And also, like, Son of Gleason's really good in this. And I fear if you put the Gad in that role, the role of John, some of, like, the freakouts that he has. And, like, I don't know if I want to watch the Gad and Maggie Gyllenhaal go to town in a hot tub.
I do, but
well, my whole point is, like, with the way the Gad can deliver things, I fear some of, like, the freakouts that John has in the movie might come off as, like, comedic when they don't need to be. But I don't want him to hang himself, so he can't be the keyboardist. So They have the guitar player who's like French and just doesn't really have many lines throughout the movie. I think that would be fun casting, to have Gad just kind of in the background and has a few zingers from time to time.
Still
Isn't the guitar
French.
player? Yeah. And isn't he the one that forgets the ashes when they go out to the desert in that one
He
scene?
grabs the wrong box.
That's right. He
Yeah.
grabs like the oatmeal or whatever, and so that would be like his moment to shine, to kind of do like the my bad.
Yes, that's a very much a Josh Gad moment. If you want to go riskier, you could have him replace Maggie Gyllenhaal, and then the hot tub scene is
Whoa.
just insane.
Takes on a new life of its own. That would dethrone a certain Jake Gyllenhaal movie for progressive filmmaking.
All right, that was an easy one. It's a musical movie, so of course Josh Gad would have to be part of the band.
And also, it's not like we have a huge cast to select from. There's basically 5 people throughout the movie.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could bury him as one of the South by Southwest people that greet him.
He's above that.
But yeah, no, at this point, it would be a waste of resources if you didn't put him as part of the band. All right, well, that takes care of Josh Gad. Let's go into trivia. What do you have, Alex?
Budget of $1 million, which, considering that this was already knee deep in the era of Magneto, it's kind of surprising. But again, Fassbender is an artist, I would say. Box office return of less than $2 million. As I mentioned, premiered at Sundance on January 17th of 2014. We talk about this in the episode, and I also am hoping that some of our European contingent will kind of help fill in some blanks for us. But this was based on a British comedian by the name of Chris Seavey. Again, I'm sorry, I looked and I couldn't find how to properly pronounce that, so I apologize to the late Chris. His character, Frank Sidebottom, which if you look up, if you just Google Frank Sidebottom, you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's the mask from Frank.
That's Frank.
Yeah, so there's elements that are also based, I think I read on Daniel Johnston, who is kind of a troubled musician, who famously has that wall in Austin that's dedicated to him. It's that little like alien looking creature that says, "Hi, how are you?"
Yes.
It's down on Guadalupe. They tore down whatever was there, but they saved that brick wall, so when they build fucking, I don't know, more condos or something, they'll be like, oh, it still has Austin attached to it. This movie, a segment of it, speaking of Austin, does happen at South by Southwest, but it ain't Austin, brother. That's Albuquerque.
I would like to, at this point, because it didn't come back to the episode. We talked about it in between Contrarians Corner Real Talk, where I sent you the picture I took, the screenshot I took of
yes,
the Ritz.
Yeah.
So that is the Ritz, right? They did put a shot of downtown.
Which, yes, now disgustingly is Joe Rogan's anti-woke comedy club. Which he does call the mothership, which every time I do have to say it like Dusty Rhodes. Here on the mothership, baby. But I guess they just had some stock footage or something, because that is a shot of 6th Street. Yep. But the production was never actually at South by Southwest. But they used, like, I mean, the name and like the logo alone. So there was some canoodling. They were in bed together with each other there somehow. And as we've seen in Shame, you want to get into bed with Michael Fassbender.
If you can handle it.
Touche. The part of Frank was originally written with Johnny Depp in mind, which can't you just hear him in that helmet?
Too much.
It's Johnny Depp. Yeah. It would be too on the nose.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've seen what he can do from a comedic perspective with Captain Jack, which I always forget that was he got nominated for a fucking Oscar for that. So just comparatively speaking, I learned more about Fassbender as an actor in this than I would have Johnny Depp, in my opinion.
It would have felt like such obvious casting with Johnny Depp. And even when you know it's Fassbender, you're constantly surprised by what he's doing. Whereas, like, if you knew it was Johnny Depp, you're like, yeah, this is Johnny Depp. There's no sense of wonder.
All of the music performed by the band is played live by the actors on screen, which is obviously extremely rare in filmmaking.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Like, I can't, the logistics of that, because they always say, like, since the beginning of film, the reason they did it that way is because it fucks up the audio when someone's trying to play live music. So,
favorite Contrarians filmmaker, Tom Hooper, all the singing, and this is not a bit, it's true, all the singing in Les Miserables, like, it's live, which is why some of the sequences are like one shot, because he's just having the actors sing right there.
Who was it that people were hypercritical of their singing? Was it Russell Crowe?
Russell Crowe. I
Okay.
was about to say it worked really well for Catwoman,
Yeah.
not so much for the Master and Commander.
Well, it'd be that way sometimes. The original script was mainly based in Sweden. It was switched to Ireland largely because director Lenny Abrahamson was more familiar with the Irish landscape. And I can't remember how deep we go into it in the movie, but there are like that chunk of time when they're in Ireland. There's some gorgeous, like just wide shots and static shots of the land that they're on and water and shit. And so
It's not New Mexico passing for Ireland.
yeah, there's only so much you can do with Albuquerque, but I just thought that was an interesting point because it's clear that the filmmaker, when you watch this, you're like, this filmmaker clearly has like an admiration for the Irish landscape. So good on him. Although the biggest chunk of the movie is set in Ireland and both of the stars in the film are Irish, Michael Fassbender and my never-ending struggle to properly pronounce this dude's name, Domhnall Gleeson.
Son of Gleeson
For short. Neither one of them is Irish in the movie. Fassbender's character is American, specifically from Kansas, and Gleason's character is English. Fassbender's English accent. Thoughts?
You mean like American accent? Like American English accent?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
His Kansas accent.
It does not take you out of the movie. At least it did me. But I am a lot less critical of accents. You know that if an accent takes me out of the movie, then that means that it's really out there. Because for the most part, I'm just like, I don't know what they're trying to do. But like, man, we can't leave Strange Days alone. But Ray Fiennes' American accent in Strange Days made me kind of like raise an eyebrow and go like, what is he doing? But okay, I'll go with it. With Fassbender, I didn't question it. It's just, I guess maybe it helps that he has the mask, the big head around it. So there's like that added kind of level to his voice that just, it's supposed to sound weird because he's speaking from inside a giant styrofoam head. So the accent is not the main thing you focus on. But you're the American here. And you're also a lot more attuned to accents. So does he sound like he's from Kansas?
I mean, I couldn't nail. Well, first of all, you're American too, brother. You passed that citizenship test.
I'm sorry, American born. You've spent your entire life surrounded by English-speaking people.
I gave you a cheeseburger, a gun, and directions to the welfare office and said, welcome. So yeah, to not confuse English with Son of Gleeson, that's more obviously for our English and Irish listeners because there definitely is differences in dialect there. So if you're English or Irish, what do you think of Son of Gleeson in this? As far as Fassbender goes, that guy's a chameleon, man. I can't tell. I'm sure someone from Kansas might be like, well, no, this isn't how we say things. But for me, anything I've seen him in as detailed in the episode, him speaking German kind of is memorable for, I think it's the third movie he's done that in, X-Men and Inglourious Bastards. And so he can do it all, man.
You know, he's in the new Fincher movie. I wonder what accent he's gonna use there.
Is Brad Pitt, like, I'm trying to think of like a celebrated actor. Like Tom Cruise has never really done like an accent, has he? Maybe like Interview with the Vampire, but he's never.
He has that movie where he plays a Nazi that's trying to kill Hitler. What's it called? Valhalla?
Valkyrie?
Yeah. And I think the movie starts with him speaking German. And then within the first 5 minutes, it slowly kind of like fades into him speaking English with his own accent. And that's how the movie's telling you, look, he is speaking German, but you are going to hear him speaking English. That way we don't have a full movie of Tom Cruise speaking German because he's not Fassbender.
Well, that's what I mean. Like and I'm sure like Tom Cruise or, like George Clooney or someone, like they're great actors that I imagine if you talk to them about it, they would be like, yeah, that's just not my bag. Like I can't. That's not something I can really do. Whereas you got a guy like Fassbender who just.
I mean, Pitt can do an Italian accent, as proven in Inglourious Bastards.
Yes, buongiorno. I mean, if we're not fawning over him enough, the episode is also filled with us just talking about how wonderful Michael Fassbender is. And in closing here, we talk about this in the episode. Michael Fassbender actually approached to do the film, the producers of it, because he liked the screenplay so much. But while he was filming as Frank, he only had peripheral vision while wearing the head. So, like, I'm curious if I ever met him, like, and had an opportunity to ask him questions about his career, if that like helped get him more in like the zone of just like, is if you just have peripheral vision, if you stare forward, you're just like staring into nothingness. So like, and if it helps more, Rodney Dangerfield famously said of Caddyshack that like, well, he didn't famously say, everyone told the story about him having a really hard time the first few days of shooting because he would deliver his lines and he would just like look at the other actors or like people on set for like a reaction. And it's like, well, brother, that's not how, yeah, you're a stand-up comic, but that's not how movies work. So my question here is like, if it hindered him or helped him that he couldn't really see who he was acting at, like, it wasn't mirrored back at him. That's obviously a conversation for the artist and something you and I can only like really guess about.
I think there are two types of actors for the most part, right? Like the method ones, like Daniel Day-Lewis would tell you, of course, this was just a vital part of
I am Frank.
Exactly. I can't be Frank if I'm actually able to see outside of the, I need that perspective in order to be Frank. And then there, I think the most like laid back actors, like who's, I don't think Cruise would do it anymore, but some laid back like actor that's not from the actor studio, I would tell you,
Leo?
Oh yeah. No, maybe Keanu would just tell you, yeah, that was a pain in the ass. That was
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy.
Like, yeah, man, whatever, fuck it.
I couldn't see, and I wish they cut like some holes on the side so I could like really get my reactions. But
you get Dwayne Johnson. He's got the phone at the high angle. Ha! I couldn't see in front of me. Ha!
Watch Black Adam, please.
And I will now explain how it did make money.
All right. Well, someday we might be there to cover Black Adam, but until then,
keep throwing more Franks our way and less Black Adams.
Yes. So Watch Frank was on Hulu. We did a full episode on it, so that's on the main feed. Maybe you've already listened to it, maybe you haven't. But whatever the case, thank you for watching this video. Coming up next, we're going into a classic, and we're doing 2 fresh movies back to back. Alex, Frank was fresh, and the next one's fresh as well. Double Indemnity. It's 97%. It's really close to 100. It was
Billy Wilder coming to the forefront.
Black and white, noir, femme fatales, crime, everything you've come to expect from movies like Double Indemnity and Strange Days.
Night in the City.
Night in the City. So check that out as well, and we'll see you again soon.